The moment I saw Patricia's pinched, meticulously hostile face peering over the perfect hedge, I knew trouble was brewing, but banning my dog from my own fenced-in yard? Seriously? What kind of delusion was this woman operating on? My beautiful, gentle golden retriever, Baxter, was simply chasing a rogue tennis ball across the lawn. The picture of canine joy, when the first official cease and desist letter arrived, smelling faintly of lavender and institutional malice. That's how it started. A polite, HOA-sanctioned note declaring Baxter a noise and aesthetic pollutant, threatening fines if his offensive presence wasn't mitigated immediately. Didn't she realize this was America? This wasn't some Soviet-era neighborhood watch. I sighed, the sound catching in my throat like dust, feeling the familiar, acidic burn of frustration welling up. It wasn't just about Baxter. It was about the line she had crossed, the line separating neighborly decency from straight-up psychological warfare. Baxter, thankfully oblivious to the drama, nudged my hand, his tail beating a rhythmic, joyful tattoo against the deck railing. The sun was warm, smelling of fresh-cut grass and distant barbecue smoke, and I tried to let the sheer normalcy of the afternoon drown out the mounting anxiety. Why did she hate him so much? It wasn't the barking. Baxter hardly ever barked, preferring soft, contented woo-woos when greeting us. But Patricia, or the Karen as I'd started calling her in my head, seemed to live for conflict. Her house was the neighborhood's silent monument to oppressive perfection. The grass was a chemically enhanced emerald, and even the shadows seemed to conform to a strict, unspoken code. The next day, I found a laminated sign, cheaply printed but aggressively official-looking, stapled to my fence post, proclaiming my yard a designated nuisance zone, and featuring a blurred photo of Baxter that made him look like a savage wolf. My blood pressure instantly spiked. Is this really happening? I decided to fight fire with documentation. I started a log, recording every one of Baxter's outings, accompanied by timestamps and video evidence. The surveillance was relentless. I'd catch Patricia's reflection in her own tinted dining room window, binoculars glued to her face, a grotesque parody of a nature observer. Once, while I was cleaning up after Baxter, a sacred ritual I performed immediately, every time, much to Patricia's visible disappointment. I heard a faint click, and I looked up just in time to see the glint of a camera lens retracting from behind her perfectly placed gnome collection. It felt less like a neighborhood dispute and more like a low-budget spy thriller. The minor twist came a week later when a new homeowners association report landed in my mailbox, this time complaining about the smell coming from my yard. I was meticulous about cleaning, so I was confused. I went outside and took a deep breath. Nothing but pines and petunias. Then I heard it, a high-pitched, frantic yapping. I cautiously walked to the far end of the property line, where Patricia's yard bordered the dense woods, and there she had a small, forgotten, chain-link pen. Inside was a tiny, agitated Yorkshire Terrier, its kennel clearly neglected, smelling powerfully of old ammonia and despair. The stench was coming from her yard, not mine. Wait, she's complaining about my dog while keeping her own dog in squalor? The hypocrisy was monumental. This revelation gave me the necessary courage. When the Homeowners Association finally scheduled a formal hearing, citing a ridiculous number of violations based on Patricia's doctored photos and hysterical testimony, I was ready. I brought the logs, the videos of Baxter's silent sunbathing, and most importantly, I presented the time-stamped footage of the neglected Yorkshire Terrier's pen in her backyard, juxtaposed against her continuous, venomous complaints about Baxter's imagined pollution. The Homeowners Association board looked visibly ill, shuffling the papers uncomfortably. They tried to mediate, but Patricia escalated immediately, abandoning the Homeowners Association structure entirely and filing a direct civil suit against me, demanding the removal of the aggressive animal and damages for emotional distress. The sheer audacity. She actually hired a lawyer, a man in a cheap suit who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. The day in court arrived shrouded in the heavy, silent tension of cheap linoleum and fluorescent lights. I sat there, clutching my evidence binder, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Patricia, dressed in a sharp, unforgiving pantsuit, testified with theatrical flair, painting Baxter as a savage beast, pausing dramatically to wipe away crocodile tears that didn't quite materialize. "He intimidates me," she whined. "I can't even enjoy my pristine yard." His very presence is a constant reminder of filth and chaos. The judge, an elderly woman with sharp, kind eyes and an air of utter fatigue for petty drama, listened patiently, occasionally stifling a sigh. When it was my turn, I simply played the compiled video. 5 minutes of Baxter calmly playing fetch, followed by 3 seconds of Patricia's hidden dog, the forlorn Yorkie, yelping miserably in its neglected, foul-smelling cage. The courtroom fell silent, broken only by the sharp click of the judge setting down her pen. She didn't even need to deliberate. "Ms. Miller," the judge said, addressing Patricia with a quiet, devastating finality. "Your case is dismissed. Furthermore, given the irrefutable evidence of your neglect toward your own pet, and the egregious, documented waste of the court's time and the HOA's resources stemming from your malicious harassment of the defendant, I find it necessary to implement a restorative justice measure." Patricia's jaw dropped so hard I thought I heard a faint snap. "You will report to the local animal shelter's dog kennel unit, the largest one, for a minimum of 80 hours of community service, supervised by a shelter manager. Your duties will be confined strictly to cleaning and sanitizing the kennels, specifically focusing on waste removal and hygiene. I trust that this experience will grant you a more grounded and perhaps less hypocritical perspective on true neighborhood nuisance and the care of living creatures." The air left Patricia's lungs in a startled gasp, a truly satisfying, defeated sound. Justice, I realized, doesn't always wear a robe. Sometimes it wears rubber gloves. Never let the petty tyrants of the world use their rules to crush your joy. Stand your ground, gather your evidence, and watch as their own twisted schemes become the very thing that cleans up their mess. That day, Baxter and I didn't just win a lawsuit. We reclaimed the sweet, simple freedom of our own backyard.